Oh, hi there. How you doing? I hope you're happy, healthy, doing the things you love. As always, guys. My name is Sean Butler. She's Bugsy Malone. This is episode 80 of Tottenham Walks at the Spurs Talk Show. If you wouldn't mind doing me a favour before we get going, two favours in fact. One of them is to do the triple threat of liking, subscribing if you haven't, and hitting that notification bell, because that, first and foremost, that trifecta of button clicking allows you to be notified when we go live. It also sends out signals to the algorithm that pushes the content out to more Tottenham fans who may or may not like the things that I'm saying, but at the very least can get involved in the conversation in the comments below, which is a really cool place right now. Every video has so many comments, people going back and forth. I love it. And that is the second favour. Please do drop a comment on this particular video. Let me know whether you agree with what I'm saying or what I'm not. And you know what? Stay to the end of the video, guys, because the last part of it is about Christian Romero. And look, I don't even know if I really want to say it, because it might come out like I'm accusing him of being a part of a conspiracy theory. And I don't know if I am. I'm not. But I do think there's some information that's out there that's quite suspicious. And I do want to get your thoughts on it. Before I kind of land on my opinion, I want to see what the kind of climate, the temperature feels like on this particular topic. But before we get to that, I want to bring to you some other news, which is sad. We have the Liverpool game coming up on Sunday, 72 hours time, guys. I mean, it's a tough game every year anyway. In the last couple of seasons, we've got closer and closer to finally getting a victory over them in the Premier League, which hasn't happened for a while. And look, this year, whilst Liverpool are, really struggling themselves in the Premier League and have this inability to find consistent form, they run hot, then they're cold, then they're hot, then they're cold. And look, generally speaking, you'd say that they have a set of weaknesses in their team that Tottenham would or could usually be able to take advantage of, in the form of their ageing midfield that can't protect the back line as much. And when their wing backs push forward, they sometimes get caught out of position and there's no one there to protect them this season like there has been in the past. So Tottenham could have taken advantage of that. We still could, but it's going to be incredibly difficult with the injuries that we have to so many key players. The latest news on that front, alongside the continued absence of KULUSEVSKI and the likely, almost certain, continued absence of Richarlison, and the guaranteed continued absence of Christian Romero, which we'll talk about in a minute. Alongside that, we have the news yesterday, that HENUNG's son is out injured, obviously from the cheekbone injury that he suffered in the Marseille game. And it looks like he has to have surgery, and so we'll definitely miss the end of this particular part of the season leading into the World Cup. And really sad news for any South Korean fans that are listening. Unfortunately, it looks likely, unless when they get inside and open him up and find out that it's a minute fracture that doesn't require too much work, he could in fact also miss the World Cup for South Korea, which is really sad for a guy who loves playing for his country as much as he does, and who's 30. By the time the next World Cup comes around, he'll be 35. South Korea, I think, usually qualify anyway, so he'll probably get one more chance. But either way, if it doesn't happen for him this time around, it's devastating news for the guy. And it should be devastating news for Tottenham fans as well, despite Sonny not playing his best football this season for Tottenham. In fact, look, with the exception of the Leicester game and the other game where he scored 2 goals recently, I really feel like he hasn't been the same version of himself that we've seen of recency. And I've got some stats here. Just listen to this one, right? And I'll drop this spreadsheet hopefully over the top of the video. But I think the major reason why he's struggling so much is the absence of KULUSEVSKI. Look at these stats, right? 41 Premier League games under Antonio Conte. 23 of them have been with KULUSEVSKI, 18 of them have been without KULUSEVSKI. Twice as many goals scored with him playing as without him, 59 versus 28. 2.56 goals per game versus 1.55 without him. Goals against is 18 with him, 22 without him, which is a per game ratio of 0.78 when you have him, 1.22 when you don't, so nearly half a goal a game conceded more. The points in the bag, 52 versus 30, or 2.26 per game versus 1.66. Massive differences, massive. And then look at the impact of Harry Kane and Sonny's games. Non-penalty goals and assists, or assists, 23 for Harry Kane with Kulu, 6 without. And for Sonny it's 22 with him and 7 without. Both Harry Kane and Sonny essentially score or assist a goal a game when KULUSEVSKI is playing, and when he's not playing they contribute less than half each. The impact of Dejan KULUSEVSKI in this team for our forward line is insane. The absence of him is measurable, it's tangible, and it's significant. So on the one hand, when you look forward to the Liverpool game and you think, well, what are we going to do now, right? Like, if you go 3-4-3, are you going to play Perisic on the left side up the top and then play Lucas Moura or Hill on the right of Harry Kane? And then, you know, everything else would be the same. You play Sessegnon on the left wing back, who would probably it would make sense anyway because of last time around how well he did against Salah. And on the right hand side, Doherty or Emerson to support Hill or Lucas. And then in the middle of the four, I mean, I was going to say you'd have Bentancur and Højbjerg, but there's unconfirmed rumours that Bentancur's pulled a hamstring as well, and that's why he was taken off in the Marseille game. Haven't heard anything concrete on that yet, but he is now a doubt for the next 3 games as well. You know, I don't want to hear, you know, when I hear other rival fans saying, oh, Tottenham fans always moaning about injuries, every club has injuries. I don't think any club in the Premier League has had, 14 of our first 16 players all have injuries in the first 2 months of the season at some point, and most of them overlapping each other in some way in significant areas, like in the forward line, where you currently got Sonny out, KULUSEVSKI out, Richarlison out, Lucas Moura just back from a long-term injury. You know, six forwards, 4 of them kind of either injured or just back from an injury, and then Brian Hill, who's so junior in the squad that he wasn't expected to be needed or necessary as early as he, as quickly as he is or was. You know, like it is fair and reasonable to allocate a large slice of bad luck to the justification for why sometimes Tottenham are not playing our free-flowing, better version of ourselves on the pitch, in my opinion. Let me know what your thoughts are. But anyway, my point being, we're missing out on Sonny. He's out. So, I'll be back in 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. Yeah, look, so, I mean, in terms of the back three, well, before we get to the back three, the 3-4-3, if we're going to go with that, then you're going to, without Bentancur, you're going to play, you know, Højbjerg and Bissouma, and then have Skip as the option off the bench. Or if you want to go 3-5-2 and not have to play Lucas Moura after his poor performance the other night, then do you go for, assuming that Bentancur is out, do you go Højbjerg, Skippy and Bissouma? But then where do you go with a plan B if that doesn't work out, or if there's an injury there? Pape Matar Sarr getting his Premier League debut against Liverpool. We are threadbare. We're threadbare in certain areas of the pitch at the moment, if anything more goes wrong. And whilst I know some people like to kind of have a joke and say, or whether it's serious or not, and say, Remind me again about how good of a window it was. But I don't think that in reality you can necessarily, like, you can only have 25 people in the squad. And when you have this many injuries all in the same area, like, you can't have 10 forwards in your team just on the off chance that 8 of them get injured or 7 of them get injured. You have to at some point shake hands with Lady Luck and say, all right, you know, we'll have to roll with the punches. At the back, for me, you've got the 3 centre-back choices. You can stick with what we had, which is Longley in the middle of Davies and Dyer on the right, which is how I'd want to go. I know they weren't perfect. I know that the pace in the back line is really poor without Romero, and actually Sanchez is probably the fastest of the rest. But what you gain in pace with Sanchez, you lose in concentration and confidence. And for me, I think Longley's done a really good job, actually. Generally speaking, he's not perfect, but his spatial awareness and I think his adaptability is pretty switched on, and I think he's moved into the centre and done a really good job. So I would be more than happy with those 3 to start and see how we get on. Look, the absence of Christian Romero is a problem, and I do want to finish on this particular topic because, as I say, this is a controversial one. I'm not landing on this as my opinion. I just want to put it out there to see how you guys feel, because there's a little bit of two-way news on this. So he obviously, like, he was injured, he came back, he missed the Newcastle game, then he played in the Sporting game, and there were moments from memory where he did, you know, look like he was holding his calf muscle a little bit. I'm not going to lie, I think that was happening. But I've never really heard, I'm not a doctor, so I could be massively wrong on this, and people that are more informed could tell me that it's a very common injury, but overuse or over-exhaustion of one specific muscle, to me, is strange. And I wonder whether or not, you know, is that a name given to an injury that a player feels, but that doesn't show up necessarily on like a scan? I don't know. If there's no tear, if there's no, you know, pulling or any of those things, and the player is just saying, I've got, you know, pains in that muscle, but the scans don't show anything wrong, is that what you would call exhaustion of the injury? I don't know. The only reason I'm bringing that up and bringing into question some suspicions I have about that is because the World Cup is around the corner, and whilst I absolutely love Christian Romero, I don't think Christian Romero loves playing for Tottenham anywhere near as much as he loves playing for Argentina. And I think you could make the same assertion for most Argentinian players. Juan Foyth, Lo Celso, you know, when those guys were here, they would always be fit to play for their country, and even they disappear when they were asked not to. You know, the loyalties are to Argentina, which is what it is, right? I find that a little bit somewhat disrespectful in principle, because we pay their wages, and they should be prioritising the club that they pay for. They shouldn't have to prioritise either, to be honest. They should just be doing their job, and if injuries come up along the way, then so be it. But that's not in itself enough of a reason to have suspicions about it. But I do want to just mention something that I saw. So Paul O'Keefe was on Twitter last night saying, in response to somebody saying, so Romero is the new fan target. And Paul O'Keefe came out and said, it's not, nobody's putting a target on their head. No one questions what he brings to the team, but certainly can question the timing of his muscle fatigue, quote unquote. And then he's come out with a list of players who all play for Argentina, who are all apparently injured and who are all apparently going to be fit for the World Cup. Ocampos, Di Maria, Paredes, Lisandro Martinez, Christian Romero, Juan Foyth, De Paul, and Lo Celso. He says they're all injured. Oh, it's just a coincidence. Got it. Now, when I saw that, I retweeted it and said reading that makes me uncomfortable. You know, if that is the case, then you can ask the question. I would hate to think that Christian Romero is not putting Tottenham's priorities in alongside his own. I would hate to think that that is the case. I understand the World Cup is important to everybody. Playing for your country is important and it's a proud thing. I get it. But, you know, Tottenham could have gone out of the Champions League on Tuesday night. We might find ourselves outside of the top 4 and outside of the Carabao Cup before the World Cup because our defence looks as leaky as it does. So I'm not saying he's doing anything untoward here. I'm just putting 2 and 2 together, and I may be getting 4, I may be getting 5. But I'd love to know your thoughts, because he hasn't been the same player this season, and it's crossed my mind before I saw that information from Paul O'Keefe that has he got one eye on the World Cup? Is he not crunching players like he usually does because he doesn't want to get injured and miss his World Cup? I hate that I even have to ask it, but that detail makes me suspicious. I'd love to know your thoughts. If you know anything more about muscle fatigue and that it's more common, I just never really hear of it that much. I hear of dead legs and pulled hammies, pulled muscles, strained muscles, but I've never heard of muscle fatigue or exhaustion in one leg that would keep you out coincidentally for the 10 days it is that Tottenham still have games to play, but then he'll be absolutely fit again, such as to the word that journalist said from Argentina, that he'll be absolutely fine for the first game of the World Cup. I'll leave it there. Like, share and subscribe, guys. Let me know your thoughts and tell me if I'm making a mountain out of a molehill. I don't know. I hope not. I hope I am, I hope it's all legit. Like, share and subscribe, and as always, love you guys. Take care. Bye-bye.